Hey guys, first off, Ben, this is a great event wherever you're at. Thanks. You got it. So at Abe, we tried to reimagine how individuals interact with their money. And our ethos is trying to get people to quit stressing out about their money and re-engage with it. And really kind of quit logging into mint.com to get updates on your finances. Don't manage budgets by looking at how many groceries you're buying. There's simpler ways to assess these problems, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with Abe. So quickly, my name is Rob Guilfoyle. I'm the co-founder of Abe AI. I'm from Louisville, and I'm now in Orlando. And I do not watch the show Silicon Valley. I know I share the last name of one of the guys. So today I just want to do a very quick intro to Abe and kind of what we're doing. I want to focus in on one specific feature that we do. This is a developers conference, so I wanted the developers here to take something away from it and show how we do that. And then the kind of why behind Abe is we want people to quit stressing around their money. So Abe kind of evolved as being a financial wellness tool for small teams, kind of in the Slack ecosystem. And we do that by focusing on letting Abe plan and track your money. And then when things get sticky, so you've got a more complex financial situation, maybe there's some emotion at play in this, you may want to talk to an actual financial advisor or a CFP of some sort. So how Abe works is he's added to Slack. This should be a familiar screen to a lot of you. We're also rolling out SMS features this week. You then connect with your bank account. So we work with the aggregators. So we have around 20,000 institutions here that you can connect your accounts through. And that's everything from credit cards to student loans. And after you connect your accounts, we run some really interesting statistics against your transactions. And we try and assess, what are your recurring expenses and your recurring incomes. And I'm not talking about just like your electricity bills. If you go to coffee every Wednesday, that's a bill. It needs to be planned into your finances. So we approach these problems a little bit differently as well. And then from there, we request that you verify your phone for SMS. Some people don't like to plug their finances into a workplace application. That was one of our very quick learnings. So we quickly integrated with Twilio on that. And then Abe allows you to get very quick answers on your money, and it's more of a push versus a pull concept. People are very confused around what they should be asking bots around their money. So we've moved more into a guidance perspective. So this is a Friday report that goes out to you, and it goes more around cash flow, debts, loans, investments, how you're doing holistically. So people have really loved this message. And then one of the coolest things that we're just rolling out this week is this idea of the personalized spending plan. So we do an automated budget for you. We determine your savings goals out of your ratio to your bills and your expenses. And then at any point in time, you can ask Abe how much you can spend, whether it's this weekend or today or whenever that time frame would be. And you can see in this example, this individual has blown their budget. And Abe is saying, I can't help you today. You've spent too much of your money, but here's where it went. And you're going to rely on credit usage and a reduction in your savings in the event you keep this behavior up. If you'd like to talk to a financial professional, feel free to just ask. So this is the feature that I wanted to kind of show how this works. Abe would respond with, hang tight, I'm going to connect you with someone. So we've heard this feature called, I think somebody referred to it as hijacking or handshaking. That was the first term I've ever heard. I like to call it hijacking because you're kind of hijacking the conversation. So this is an example of a dashboard that we built out for the financial planners that we have, where they can see in context what the person's asking Abe only when the user requests help from them. So as a financial planner, I can see here that this person's got something that they're talking about with credit cards or with their investments, and they've got a specific question that they want to get answered from, and it's just too complicated from a bot perspective to handle. So how do we do that? And how is that kind of handshake or hijacking taken over? If you think about it from the bot's perspective, you have a consumer that first interacts with the bot, and then the bot reaches out to the support agent, and now the support agent is directly connected with the user. And then at any point in time, they can end that connection, and then the bot takes back over kind of seamlessly. So when you think about it, how do you technically solve for this problem? It's handled with the concept of sessions with your bot and middlewares. So right now you go from consumer to bot, and then if you're going to inject this session concept, you would have kind of a middleware in between this. It says, is this current session hijacked or not? Do I need to kick it over to the bot, or do I need to let the customer support agent do whatever they're going to do, which would be ultimately respond to the bot. So I want to quickly just show you guys some code, and we elected to show this with BotKit. The great guys from Howdy created for the community on that. And so if you look at it, it kind of starts with this idea of storing your conversations and your messages in some form of a schema. So I've just connected a quick Mongo database here, and we're showing the different data types that we've got here. So this is very familiar if you're a developer with Slack, but you've got this idea of what kind of message it is, the owner type and owner ID. So owner would be either the bot or the customer support agent. So you might need to switch the image out in Slack or switch the name out through their APIs. And then you have the conversation schemas. So is the conversation currently hijacked? And then a storage of all the messages. So when you think about this from a BotKit or middleware perspective, you have this idea of code gets executed prior to all of the bot ecosystem booting up and happening, and then code gets executed on the tail end as the message is going out. So if you tie into these two areas in your bot, you can do something very simple like, okay, as a message comes in, look up the conversations. Is there anything, as a very rudimentary example, is there anything that's in there that's less than 15 minutes old? So is there a recent conversation? And if there is, don't create a new one, but just check, is the conversation hijacked? If it is, you're just going to do not let the bot respond. The customer support agent is obviously in this conversation. If it's not, you're going to let the bot take over consistently. And so when you think about that from kind of the message being sent perspective, you then gather all the data that you're doing, you add the message to the conversation, and then you fire it off that way. So it's a pretty easy example, but it's a feature that when you first hear, it's kind of hard to conceptualize how the bot and a customer support agent might think about this problem. So that is how we handle that problem, and it ends up looking like this when you get it into Mongo databases. So you have the customer or the conversation objects, and then you have all the messages that go along with this. And you can do some really interesting analytics around session management and just all the different ways you might be analyzing these conversations with the bots when you store the data in this type of format. So that's all I've got for you guys. Any questions?
That was awesome. Is there any questions? I see right here we're going to go boom and boom.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you handle when you do the handoff for the hijack. How do you select who the person is that gets it and responds to that? And what if one isn't available? What happens then?
Yeah, so right now we've tested this with a very small subset of our users. So we turn the feature on and off, so we know when somebody's going to be available. So we haven't had that issue yet. I've seen other companies. I think GrowthBot might do this. They say, we'll connect you, and then at some point when somebody connects them, they have some kind of quirky message like, hey, Amy was out walking her dog, now she's back here to help you. But to your earlier question, how do we dictate who gets what? Right now we have 3 or 4 different CFPs that are working with us, and we just go to the most recent one. But as that feature evolves, it'll probably be a regional thing and sticky, so if you've interacted with one, we'll try and put you back with the same individual, things like that.
Right here. So we did something very similar for the education bot we built. And actually it turned out that it was a bad idea to totally take the bot out of the equation, just for feedback. because we'd find, like, we'd say, do you want to speak to a human? They would say yes, and then they would consistently be asking the human questions the bot knew the answer to. And actually, we ended up doing sort of a hybrid approach where, like, if the bot knew the answer to a certain, like, confidence, it would just answer. And, the analogy is, like, it's like a human doing chat with, like, an Iron Man suit. You know, just like you're supercharged with the bot, and you're both talking. And we ended up removing the human identity altogether. It was, like, distracting to people. So it's like you're just talking to the bot. Sometimes it's a human, sometimes it's a bot. You don't really know, but you always know that it's giving you the right answer. And when you're in that mode, all we stopped doing was giving you the, like, I don't understand your question default if we didn't understand. It would just wait for a human. So sometimes it was really fast and the bot would be answering, and sometimes it was just waiting for a human. You weren't sure as the end user, though. It turned out to be, like, the best way for us. Just quick feedback.
You guys are over SMS, correct? So one of the interesting things about the Slack interface is when you connect to a human, it changes the image and it changes the name of the bot there, so you know that you're not connecting with Abe anymore. So I would imagine that would have a little bit of a different dynamic in your situation. And then another way that you might solve that is make people pay for it, and then they might not do that all the time. So that would be my thoughts on that.
Any other questions?
How are you guys approaching solving discoverability and growth with your bot? And part two, what are your plans for monetization? Are you guys are you making money off pushing people to the financial planners? But any thoughts you have on how you guys are approaching those things would be cool.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody's doing bot discovery overly well. I would say Slack's definitely the leader in that right now with the very defined app store that they're, and Kik has the app store as well. Thus far, all of our interactions have been in a public beta, so we actually just got accepted to the Slack app store 1 or 2 days ago, and that's all been pretty organic. The data that we've gotten back has been plenty for us to continue to build out our algorithms with what we're doing, so it hasn't been a pain point just yet. Yeah, so when we roll out SMS, that'll be very much more of a direct consumer outreach, so Facebook ads, Twitter ads, things like that. And then as you get across the other platforms, taking their app stores, making use of those things. And as far as the monetization strategy, there's quite a few different experiments that we're running. We do not want to push advice or push ads and make them appear as advice like mint.com does. And so we're trying to be more dynamic in how we create value for users and profit from that.
Any more questions?
I'm sorry, can you say that once more?
Why MongoDB versus a relational model?
So we make use of a couple different types of databases, graph databases, Mongo databases for certain things like analytics. And we also have Postgres that uses unstructured data as well. So we're very much microserviced. For this example, Mongo is super easy to connect with Node. We actually haven't written the majority of our things in Node. So that was just the bot community is very familiar with BotKit.
All right, still going? This is good.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys obviously have like an app and stuff besides just message-based features, correct?
Yes, we have a web app that does all the account connection and whatnot.
So my question is like, how much of your product do you think is like benefit from the conversational type paradigm versus like the app for finances? Like, what do you guys see as? Are you guys mainly like an app, and then you have like a bot sort of feature, which is how you push information, or is most of the interaction done through conversation?
Yeah, so it's very push oriented right now. We haven't had a lot of people wanting to just, frankly, I think it's because people don't know what to ask concerning their finances. So we've taken a very opinionated approach on how they should move money into the right places, how they should budget, and we're very much push oriented with that. we have structured the web app to give just enough value that gets them through the things that we need them to get through, setting up their budget, reviewing their transactions, very, very small bits of value spread across the app. And that way when they leave it, they know what they need to know, and the bot is just constantly keeping them engaged with what's going on as a whole in their finances. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Any more? Any more? That was really good. Give Rob a hand. Thank you, Rob.